last week, a crypto crash happened with several of the most popular cryptocurrencies taking a beating. At one point, the market lost about 200 billion in just over an hour. So why did the crypto market crash? Well, I think to be clear, I'll start by saying that crypto is a very volatile commodity. More importantly, maybe at the moment, we're not really sure what informs the price action of crypto. I mean, we don't necessarily know what drives what's moving it. Bitcoin is an odd commodity, additionally, because it's got a fixed supply. So you have to be cautious when anybody, myself included, claims to have all the answers about what's moving the price and what it's doing. Notwithstanding that fact, I'm going to tell you about what's moving the price and what it's doing. Crypto investors don't like charity, apparently. Well, Ethereum's co-founder, Vitalik Buterin, donated over $1 billion in crypto to the India COVID relief funds. Buterin, who launched Ethereum blockchain back in 2015, became the youngest billionaire on the planet at the tender age of 27. I'm jealous. When Ethereum surged past 3,000 just a few weeks ago. Right now, I think it's about 4,300 and something. His donation spooked the market over the fears that this could then end up being dumped back on the market and hurt retail investors. At the same time, according to Bloomberg, Binance Holdings is being investigated by the US Justice Department and the Internal Revenue Service as they look into the use of the exchange by employees or customers for money laundering and tax evasion. Binance, is one of the biggest cryptocurrency exchanges on the planet, and they've denied this. Clearly, they've said that there is no wrongdoing, and they point to their anti-money laundering program. They point to the fact that they've hired lots of US politicians, ex-regulators in the US, all to help keep them honest. We shall see where that ends up. But really, for the crash, I think you should blame Elon Musk. Really, I think Elon Musk should take a lot of the blame for cryptocurrencies falling over the last week. To begin with, he announced on Twitter that Tesla is no longer going to be accepting Bitcoin for payment. He said at the time that they were going to hold on to the Bitcoin that was already on their balance sheet, and he claimed at the time that the decision was made in connection with the effect of mining on the environment. That's what he said. Bitcoin has a promising future, but that cannot come at the cost of the environment, he claims. Now, I have my own thoughts about Elon Musk. Let's be honest. He's a very interesting guy, but is it really about the environment? I don't know, because, Musk's comments come about the environment at a time when it's a bit ironic because Bitcoin doesn't actually use fossil fuel. It's not like a car that burns petrol. You don't use coal in a Bitcoin transaction. So I'd love to kind of debunk the energy story once and for all, but really you can't have a conversation about the right amount of energy that Bitcoin uses without talking about the total value of Bitcoin more broadly to the ecosystem, to society, whether as a store of value, whether as a medium of exchange, as an inflation hedge, as a way to build wealth. All of these things have to be had as a whole before you are able to talk about just the energy usage. Then there's the traditional banking system and the energy that uses, right? I think the interesting parallel is that the energy usage of the traditional banking system is so opaque. It's simply impossible to tell how much energy the global banking system is using, but all estimates are that it is significantly more than what Bitcoin is using. Some would argue that Bitcoin even plays more of a value in terms of what it offers to the world, having being online 24/7. But unfortunately for Bitcoin, it's very transparent, and you can see easily how much energy is being used to secure crypto assets and to mine them all on the network because it's the blockchain. And so because of this, Bitcoin has this bad reputation. And I personally think that it shouldn't necessarily be about the energy that is being used by Bitcoin. The focus should be on green and sustainable energy generation and storage, regardless of what it's used for. So whether that's hydropower, wind power, solar, geothermal, bioenergy, hydrogen, That's what we should be looking at, green energy generation. And the same applies whether it's Bitcoin, a car like Tesla, or even at home. The energy that a Tesla uses, where does that come from? In the same way that where does the energy that a Bitcoin come from? Because both Bitcoin and Tesla use electricity. More importantly, I guess, Bitcoin ecosystem has evolved a lot since its inception. A lot of mining now uses sustainable energy practices and renewable energy. Some of this is only viable because Bitcoin is so expensive that the source of revenue makes it more productive that you use these mining tools. And there's already plans for 75% of miners to use renewable energy to do their mining anyway. Not to mention the fact that the net impact of fossil fuel consumption over time is expected to be negative. We have things like the Paris Climate Agreement, Sustainable Development Goals, all the governments in the world talking about how they're going to move on to green. So we're going to move on to a green energy generation path, which isn't a Bitcoin problem, right? So, and then there's the intangible value of crypto and the democratization of finance. There are several coins, not just Bitcoin. And when you buy an altcoin, you're essentially acting as a venture capitalist. You are funding a small business blockchain startup that's trying to produce efficient ways of doing things, or ultimately the hope is that the investment in the technology will lead to innovations that will make lives easier and more productive for everyone. So it kind of goes a little bit beyond just investing or putting money into a Bitcoin, and you have to look at it more broadly in the ecosystem. And I think I mentioned at the start as well that in the Ethereum founder, when he donated $1 billion to the India COVID relief fund, where would that 1 billion have come from? Now, in truth, that 1 billion came from something that people would call a dodgy coin or a meme coin, or maybe even a shit coin. Let's call it its name. But ultimately, the India COVID Relief Fund now has $1 billion on its balance sheet that it can leverage to help people in India. And I don't see that as a bad thing, regardless of whether or not the coin itself does anything. So that has been the 3 things that I wanted to talk to you about this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure you leave a comment. I'd really like to engage and know what you think. What do you think about Bitcoin, blockchain? Are you investing? What coins are your favorite? Let me know. I'd love to know, because I need some tips too, so that I can get involved. But thank you for your time, and I'll see you next time.